Hi, this is Paul Kreitz, and welcome to Halloween DIY and How To. In this edition, I'm going to show you how to build this animated chained skeleton. Slowly raising its head and hands, as if desperately trying to stand, this fully animated prop, with its lifelike movements and dynamic chains, creates a truly compelling and spooky atmosphere. It then slowly lowers itself back down, its head drooping, as if overcome by the weight of its ghostly chains. This eerie bag of bones is perfectly suited for your Halloween haunt or display. How is it done? Well, I'm going to show you how. So let's get started. In this video, we are essentially building a marionette whose movements are then controlled by the Overhead Animator. I'm sure you have guessed by now that this skeleton marionette is not full-sized. In fact, it stands a mere 3 feet tall. However, in a world of bigger and bigger Halloween skeletons, I'm going in the opposite direction. There is something oddly mesmerizing about diminutive entities. Imps, pixies, and goblins are perfect examples. And we are all aware of a certain small little ghostess that backs up that claim. Yes, I am speaking of her. So I have no problem presenting my 3 foot tall chained skeleton. And since this is a companion prop to the Overhead Animator, you will need one completed with 6 stations. Please take the time to view that how-to video if you have not already. It not only shows you how to build it, but also goes over some important do's and don'ts when using it to animate different Halloween props. I will list its link in the description of this video as well as at the end of this video. In addition to the Overhead Animator, here are the other items that you will need to build this prop. One of these 3 foot tall posable hanging skeletons. As of the publishing of this video, they are available at a major big box hardware store and online. A metal rod measuring 1/8 of an inch by 6 inches long. One small screw eye around 3/8 of an inch in size. A small plastic sheetrock anchor that fits that screw eye. 2 standard sized cup hooks. A 1-inch square hinge and its screws. Several 1-inch long nails or brads. Connectors such as these mini clips or S-hooks. 8 to 10 feet of plastic chain with links measuring about 1 inches by 2 inches. Spray paint primer for the plastic chain. A variety of paints. Some faux fur for hair. Lightweight material for its shredded clothing. A black permanent magic marker, and fishing line, either clear or dark in color. Before we start, let's talk about the skeleton. If you want to build a full-scale version of this prop by using a 5 or 6 foot skeleton, then look for something lightweight. Just the same, make sure that the overhead attachment of the animator, along with the motor and its rotating arm, are all up to the task of handling the weight of a full-scale skeleton. Also, be careful with skeletons advertised as posable. Some of those have ratcheted joints that, yes, are posable, but also lock into place at different positions. You want something with unobstructed, movable joints. That is why this product works so well. So let's start by prepping the skeleton. There are 4 areas that need to be addressed: the head, hands, hips, and knees. Let's start with the knees. Check and see that the knee joints move freely beyond just 90 degrees. If the knee joint starts to bind beyond that point, we need to open up the upper knee bone joint. Start by unscrewing the screw at each joint. Remove the lower half of the leg, then use a drill bit slightly larger than the joint opening to open it up, like this. Repeat on the other knee joint. Reassemble the legs with the screws. The knee joint should now have full range of motion. Let's move up to the hips. If you only want your skeleton to lower into a sitting position, the hip joints are probably fine as they are. To have the skeleton lower to a crouching position, you will probably notice that they start to bind beyond the 90-degree point. To remedy this, remove the screws from the upper legs at the hip bone. You will need 2 different sized drill bits. One the same diameter as the 6-inch rod, and one slightly larger. Use the larger drill bit and drill completely through the hip bone where its screws were. Both holes need to be perfectly aligned with each other. When done, place the rod through these 2 holes. It should be able to rotate freely. Use the same size bit as the rod to drill out the areas where the screws were located in the upper leg. Carefully drill those out. Push each leg over the ends of the rod that are sticking out of the hip bone. Make sure that the correct leg, right or left, goes over the correct rod end. The fit should be tight. Push the legs on until a small amount of the rod comes through the other side. Make sure that the legs are lined up and parallel with each other, like this. You should have about a 1/4 inch gap between each leg bone and the hip bone, with the legs moving freely and in tandem with each other. For the hands, look at the hands and see where their thumbs are. They should be on the inside, not the outside. If not, remove the pins, switch the hands, and then replace the pins. At this time, you may also want to bend the fingers of the hands by using a heat gun. Be careful when doing this. You want to make sure that the fingers are heated up enough to be able to bend. Otherwise, they may break. Wearing gloves, carefully mold them over a curved object, or hold the fingers in place till they have cooled and hold their shape. What about the shoulder joints? Well, if you are eagle-eyed, you may notice that the skeleton that I am using for the final setup has 2 screw eyes for the shoulder joint. I did this for the mock-up to achieve a wider range of motion with the arms. When all was said and done, I discovered that the wider range of motion was not necessary. So the arms and shoulder joints are fine just the way they are. Finally, let's prep the head and neck assembly. Remove the hanging cord and then cut the head from the neck. I found that a PVC pipe cutter works well for this. Cut as close to the skull as possible. Then use a rasp or sandpaper to level off the remaining stem of the neck on the skull. This will give you a level spot to place the hinge. Next, carefully attach the 1-inch wide hinge to both the top of the neck and to the base of the skull. Use the screws that come with the hinge. As you can see, a hinge any wider than 1 inch will be too wide. Make sure that you position the hinge portion to the front so that the head will bend forward. Hold the hinge on top of the neck and mark its holes. Use an awl to create pilot holes in the center of each mark. Carefully screw the screws into the plastic of the neck. Position the skull onto the top of the hinge, lining it up with the neck. Repeat the process of marking the hinge's location, creating pilot holes, and then carefully screwing the hinge to the skull. When done, the skull should fall forward on its own, like this. And lastly, place the small sheetrock anchor into the hole left by the hanging cord. It must be a snug fit. Then screw the small screw eye into it. The screw eye needs to be firmly attached to the skull because it is from this point that you will be lifting the entire skeleton. With the skeleton prepped, let's attach it to the overhead animator. Make sure that the animator is securely attached overhead and can handle the weight of your skeleton. While doing this, position one of the 6 station loops at the middle back. This will be for the head. The next 2 station loops to both the right and left will be for either the hands or the chain. These 2 are interchangeable, and depending on which one you choose, there will be a slight difference in the movement sequence between the arms and the chain. The very front station loop opposite from the head's loop can either be removed, have fishing weights placed on it, or used for an additional element, such as a spider, floating candle, or even the trick trunk prop, where you could have the skeleton reacting to its opening and closing. On the underside of the animator, screw in the two cup hooks about 12 inches apart and perpendicular to the front and back station loops. These will hold the guy wires. I'll talk more about those in just a bit. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to jump forward with the skeleton already attached to the overhead animator. As you can see, it is in its scene, so I have placed a whiteboard behind it so that you can see the fishing lines. When setting up the skeleton in your scene, make sure that it is positioned directly below the overhead animator. Since the feet will eventually be nailed in place, you will need a base of wood or plywood. Plus, as in my case, I have the skeleton raised up on a pedestal. Once this is all in place, start by attaching guy wires using the fishing line to the right and left shoulder bones and up to their corresponding cup hooks. Adjust the length of the guy wires so that your skeleton is in its lowest position, either sitting or crouching. These guy wires are stationary and will help give your skeleton stability, consistency, and allows the head to raise and lower by taking the tension off of the head's fishing line. Now let's jump back. Here I will be attaching the skeleton to the animator with the fishing line. With the guy wires holding up the skeleton in its lowest desired position, tie a length of fishing line to the head screw eye and up to the head's station loop that is in its highest position. Experiment with the length of the fishing line. To do this, you will need to turn the animator on and off. Once that is done, securely tie off the fishing line at the head's station loop. With that loop at its highest level and the skeleton standing, position the feet under the skeleton. If you want your skeleton to sit when lowered, you will need to position the feet slightly out in front of it. If you want it to crouch, position the feet under or slightly behind it. This is all trial and error. I suggest temporarily taping the feet into a position and turning on the animator to see how the skeleton reacts to the feet in that particular position. When happy, secure the feet into place by using 1-inch nails along the sides of the feet and in between the toes, like this. You are now ready to attach the arms to the animator. Tie the fishing line at the wrists and then up to one of the two corresponding station loops. As with the head, experiment with the length of the fishing line and which of the two station loops to use. When happy with the animation results, securely tie off the fishing line at the station loops. Next, pre-paint the plastic chain with the primer and, when dry, with the color of your choice. However, for demonstration purposes, I will be using an unpainted chain to show how it is connected to the overhead animator. Divide the length of chain into 2 equal lengths and attach them to each wrist. The easiest way to do this is to cut through one end of the end link. This will allow you to open the link and slip it over the wrist. Make sure that the direction of the chain is to the outside. At about each chain's midpoint, attach a length of fishing line to that link and then up to the corresponding unused station loop. As before, experiment with the length of the fishing line and the look of the chain. If you feel that this part of the chain hangs too close to the skeleton, tether it away a few inches. Achieve this by tying a length of the fishing line to the same link and then over to a point in the ceiling. Don't pull the chain too far away since you do not want it to interfere with the pull and release of its station loop. Again, trial and error. The final step is to tie up the end of each chain. Tie the fishing line to the last or nearly the last link and then up to the ceiling. You can even use the same overhead connection point as the tether. Here is a sped up version of the skeleton, fully attached to the overhead animator in order to give you a straightforward look of this prop in action. You are now able to paint the skeleton as you wish. Flat black acrylic paint was used for the low light areas on the bones. Glue tufts of fake fur on the skull for hair and to hide the screw eye. I used a great deal of white blacklight paint as the highlights on the bones. Add other types of paints and colors to make it your own. Attaching and gluing shredded bits of cloth can be used for its tattered clothes, while a small hidden fan will help to animate those shreds. All that is left to do now is to help hide the fishing lines by running a black permanent magic marker over them. Your animated chain skeleton is now ready for your haunt. Please have a safe, fun, and family-friendly Halloween. Happy Halloween. Thanks for watching.